Hello everyone. So as you might have read from the title, this is a video on freedom of speech and the scientific method. I'm doing my dissertation project on overpopulation, be it population dynamics, reproductive rights and migration, the trinity of toxicity as I call it, due to the fact that I already suspected that it would bring me a lot of controversy to my side and attraction. So I thought, as I'm just starting on this long project that I expect to take during the rest of my life, I expected the controversy to arrive a little bit later, as my ideas are still maturing. I don't think that I will be an authority on this, or I just want to understand better the connections between the ecology, the environment, the ethics and the morality and the history behind all of this field of overpopulation, and that's what I'm setting myself to study on this, so I can connect the dots, and it's a very ambitious project. But the reason I'm making this video is that, and as a boost of confidence for everyone that's working and on this field, and all of these fields, should say, to show you that we have to persevere. And I was recently held in a conference where I had to present the project that I am developing for the dissertation, and the juries that were present were mostly aware of what I wanted to do, and I don't blame the university for this. So I knew that I would find a lot of barriers along the way, but this is just a message for what the people that might want to work on this, because that's the main reason that I'm bringing the conscious awareness for this field. Is a lot of things happen during the presentation. So as I said, it's overpopulation, it's reproductive rights, it's migration. So you can understand how these topics are hard to discuss, and they have a lot of taboos and stigmas behind that even the environmental groups are afraid to discuss, and that's sad, and that has to be worked on. So from the start, I was during the presentation, so I talked about the reasons that we have to reduce our population. So the emergency for the numbers and the impacts on all the ecology, on the ecosystems, on all the flows that we are disrupting with our excessive presence, and impacts on the planet. So that's not news. That's been around, but on the field of population dynamics, it's being discussed, not just controlling the population and guiding it to a stable projection to 2050. So most of the people are talking about also reduction of the population. So there will be space not just for humans but for all life on Earth. And that's a very important point. So that was the first that I pointed, that most scientists talk about the sixth mass extinction that we are in the midst now, and I use the analogy that we now are considered the big asteroid that it's en route to the Earth, and we will be the cause, and we are the cause, and our behaviors that we choose of consumption, overconsumption, and they are the cause of the sixth mass extinction that we are seeing right now. And I pointed that in this field, a big solution for the problems that we are facing and creating lies on reducing our population, and one objective of that, one aim, is to reduce it in the most humanly way possible, and one that has been pointed and studied a lot by far more intelligent people than me, has been reducing the fertility rates of all countries possible, and that means empowering women, and that's very well established. I'm not bringing anything new in here, but there was some way that this message just got totally twisted and corrupted, and I faced criticism that I was putting all the responsibility on women and the onus of the guilt on women, but that wasn't what I was trying to state. Let me be very clear about this. The situation that we are in, it means that women have the power. It doesn't mean have the responsibility, because babies are made by two people and should be made by two conscious and responsible people. But in some themes that I want to approach, like child's brides and some of these problems like patriarchal cultures and religious fanaticism that still has a very huge grip on many societies, and it has been shown and proven that there's evidence for this, that women who have the opportunity to be more years in school and have safe abortion, safe contraceptives available, have family planning, all this has been shown several times to be a factor that reduces the population through the fertility rates, because women want to, and if they can, they spend more time in school and have more chances to find a decent job, and having smaller families, it's a very big factor for the economic and stability of a country. So it's not that by coincidence that the countries that went from developing countries to developed countries all went through politics of in the countries to reduce their population. So we can talk about Thailand, for example. I'm not going to go through that, you can read about that anywhere. But they went through national policies to reduce their population. It worked very well. It went from 5 point something to 2 point something. I'm not sure about the numbers now, but it works. And the people that are trying to discuss this shouldn't be met with criticism about being machists and trying to put the responsibility on women. It's not like that. I consider myself a feminist, so I want equal rights for women, and a lot of societies right now are holding women back, and that's. If people don't want to face that fact, it's problematic, and that's one of the things that I want to discuss on this project. Another thing that was pointed out during the presentation was that this sounded a lot like eugenics programs and Nazi stuff, and I don't think that everyone that disagrees with you being the people that don't agree with what I'm saying, is a Nazi. So this is the perfect line to use it, because I don't know why I was called that. And it's sad that even in science we face the fact that scientists are humans, and a lot of people still harbor these dogmatic ideas and ideologies that cannot be discussed and are considered taboo, and that's what I was faced with, and I didn't expect it so soon in the academic community. But I don't blame people for having their views, but they should be assured and more open to the fact that we have to discuss everything. There should be no idea that could not be criticized. And this is a very huge deal in the overpopulation, reproductive rights, and migration that I want to discuss in this project. So it's important that people are open to the fact that we have to talk about this, and this is just a message to the communities. And if you are working on this, be prepared to face that type of criticism, because people are not aware or educated on all the realities and the dots that are connected to population. So you will face obstacles, but just persevere, and that's what I'm trying to do. There was a lot of criticism. I was like 1 hour listening to a lot of shouting and critics, but I stood my ground, and I didn't have the chance to defend myself, but I intend to grow from the criticism, and that's what I'm doing right now. So this is a chance to grow and to show that it's more important than ever to talk about this, because the taboo that I was faced with just in the scientific community just showed me that if I'm going to face this type of criticism in the scientific community, I can't even start to imagine for the general public, which is the public that I want to reach ultimately, because there are less scientists in the world, and I expect scientists to be more open-minded to new ideas, and this is a statement for that. So other things that I discussed during this, it's the morality of family size, which is something that I want to approach, and just putting it out there. I stated something that I'm still studying this, but it's something that I want for you to know, that in the future maybe we have to be able to criticize and state that maybe reproduction isn't a right, and maybe countries have to create, I don't know about policies, but because that would be just trying to escape from the coercion part of the field that everyone knows about China's policy and stuff. But when we talk about the reproductive rights of families, and I was faced with talking later with the people that were present during the discussion, that women should, to be complete, this was what I was faced with, to be complete, they wanted to have as many children as they could. And what I said was that a lot of people don't share that view. There is a lot of stigma through to the people that choose to be childless or child-free, and society doesn't look well or openly on people that choose to be that way. And a lot of intellectuals and specialists on this area say that probably a lot of people will have to have 0 children, and the majority one child, and a lot less 2 or maybe 3 to maintain the replacement rate in several countries. And this is one of the things that we have to be able to discuss. Maybe people shouldn't have the personal freedom when it has a lot of ethical and moral implications, due to the fact that if you bring I don't know, 5 children, 6 children more into a developed country, I'm in Portugal right now, but I'm a part of the West. We have high levels of consumption. We have the highest footprint in fish consumption in the entire Europe. So that's when we bring a family with 5-6 kids that will have the highest footprint in Europe in terms of fish and other stuff, because everyone needs materials, everyone needs a house, everyone needs electricity, fossil fuels, everyone needs clothes, now everyone needs an iPhone, a computer, and all these things, all these resources, all these they are finite in a finite planet, and the problem arises when we have people that don't let the conversation just flow on this reproductive rights discussion, and if you bring a lot of these people with per capita consumption through the roof, and at the same time we have a lot of people in the rest of the world, in like Nigeria, which has a 0.01 per capita consumption, and we tend to blame it on the developing countries, the responsibility of the overpopulation issue. The West has a lot to say about this, and we have to be able to discuss reproductive rights if we want to manage the discussion and the problem that we have on our hands. The last thing that I want to discuss on this is migration, which is the last point of my work. So we have seen a lot of migration recently on Europe, and as we might think that the refugees are from countries that are in war, right now it's from Syria only, but most of the refugees are economic migrants, even though this information is not widely available. And these people that are coming to Europe, in the discussion that I want to raise is that not everyone who comes to Europe can call Europe their home, because people are at the rate that people are coming into Europe, they are not being integrated in a well and adjusted way. They are just living in pockets of micro societies or meta communities, since we are in the ecological fields, and they are not assimilating the culture of Europe. And people like Douglas Murray have said this much better than I, but these people bring their problems to Europe, and we have seen the rise of terrorism here in Europe a lot recently. And I'm not saying that they all share that blame, but religion has a big part to play in this, and I will end this video with religion. But right now migration is a huge problem, because, and this is not being discussed, but the reason people are migrating to Europe, aside from the economic and war crisis that we have on several countries, it's overpopulation. So that's the big issue that's not being connected here. So when we have millions of people, countries growing and having states of famine and climatic changes altering the landscapes and the security of food in those countries, we face a lot of challenges. So these people are growing at the very big rhythm. So before I said that the developing countries didn't have that to be blamed about consumption, but they have about their numbers. So it's not totally innocuous. So people still need in I don't know, Africa, Asia, they still need food to be fed with. They still need surface place, and they still need materials. And all these people will need that. So what we see as forests, primordial forests being devastated to be substituted by fields for agriculture. And that brings a lot of ecological damage that's not being discussed right. And also, if you have a big growth of people and you have no jobs available, because the job formation is lower than the rate of growth, people will face instability in the countries and economic crisis. And most of the times they tend to religious groups like ISIS, for example, which just is appealing to them because they give security and they give money so they can sustain their families. And this is another psychological fact of the overpopulation discussion that needs to be, and I will make sure to put it in and install it in my project. And also, when you have a lot of people, resources will be scarce, and that will foment conflict. And if we see war on Syria now, which ultimately is connected to lack of resources due to several decades of overgrazing by cattle in the country to feed a population that was growing immensely. The war is not entirely connected to that, but that's a big chunk of the problem that's not being discussed. Also in Kenya, farmers and just tribes are invading places like national protected places to be able to kill megafauna to feed themselves and just bring their cattle to feed themselves. And there are a lot of conflicts in Kenya right now because of that, and there have been in the... And this is just a small sample. This is happening all over the world. But what we see is the symptom. Is people coming into Europe and coming into adjacent countries in the Middle East and Turkey and Asia. But people are moving because they are growing at an uncontrolled rate. So if we want to fix migration, and we want to discuss if we can bring people to a higher state of consumption, because it should be a right for people to move up the hierarchy of consumption. But at the moment, with 7.5 billion people, we don't have a way of giving everyone my lifestyle. And we have seen in the population dynamics discussion that it's much easier to discuss and alter reproductive rights and empowering women and giving them the same rights as men than altering behaviors, because no one wants to go back on their comfort. Everyone who has hot water, everyone has a car, everyone wants their house to be heated. Who will go back on these privileges? No one. But the truth is that people don't want to go back on this, and it's much easier to work on the field of managing the population. So that's something that people have a lot of trouble discussing, but it's much easier to do it than going back and just everyone delivering their phone tomorrow. No one will do it, or a very small percentage. So that's on a just quick note on migration. So ending, I was faced with the comment that religion had nothing to do with population, which made me kind of laugh, because we all know just from let's say the Abrahamic religions and Christianity here, be fruitful and multiply, subdue the earth and dominate all beings, something like that, Genesis versicle 28. From the start, Catholic religion gives the idea that man has a supremacy above all other beings, and just that fact injects an idea in people's minds that humans are different than the rest of the species. We have that figured out. We already know that. The problem is the fundamentalist ideas in a lot of countries that do not allow safe abortion, legal abortion, and contraceptives to be delivered. We have the fundamental idea that people should have as many children as they can, and this is something seen in the Abrahamic religions. So in Muslims, in Jews, and Catholics, we see a lot of that, since they are they command this theme of the population business. So we see a lot of countries like Israel and Palestine, which are just small chunks but are one of the most dense in the world. due to the fact that their holy books just state that they must have as many children as they can to defend their ideas and their religions, and so they still continue on this tribal path, defending their religions, and this has to be discussed, because this what comes out of the religion is the patriarchal societies, that where man has much more power, and then you have child brides, you have domestic violence, and you have kids with 12, 13 getting married a lot sooner and having children, eliminating all chances for them to have a normal and more productive life, trying to achieve some other purpose as not having just children. And we eliminate that when we have religious fundamentalists commanding this discussion. And a nice example of this is the United States right now. So we have the conservative right just commanding on the rights of women in the country, so where you can have abortions or not, what the consequences of eliminating the foreign help to a lot of countries. I think it's about 300 million women that will be affected by these changes, and that will change the course of humanity, because if you have 300 women that have no access to family planning, that have no access to contraception, and they have no guidance, they have no places to go when they need help with guiding their family, managing their family. This will bring a lot of consequences to countries that are already affected by or are almost out of balance, like Somalia and Ethiopia and Nigeria, just to give a few examples, that you have a lot of danger of famine, and they are already on almost permanent famine and stunned by nutrition, a lacking of nutrition. And if you eliminate this, there will be a lot of trouble. So that's the final reason that I wanted to do this video. So to give a boost to all the people that are working hard on these fields, and to show some support and appreciation for what you're doing, because we all need for you to continue to persevere, and let's do it. I think humanity and the rest of life all need the effort that we are putting on this. Thank you.